And so hopefully the recording will be working. I'll overdub the one that we did from Tuesday for you. Remember that you'll always find the recordings on the calendar page for the days that the recording came from. So we're using the calendar as your main coordination system for this, so you don't have to bounce all over the place. I don't have to bounce all over the place. I can just put everything here. So let's go ahead and make sure that we've all got ourselves going. Please, in the chat line, either in the Discord side in the group text chat, or in the chat line on Google Meet, use the @ symbol and write your name. If you want to greet somebody, that's always good. Say something, say what's going on. It's hard to be, usually people are chatting away at the beginning of class, and this is sort of not the easiest place to do that. Discord is a little bit easier to do that in. But anyway, so hello to Michelle, Ernesto's here, Natalia, Ayub, Benjamin's here, Isaac. Hi there, Isaac. How are you doing? So that's who I can see is on from the chat line. A couple of other people, remember to put your names in there with the @ symbol. Wasan is here, and Laura is here. So there we go. We're ready to get up and running and going. So here's what's up for today. We're going to just look at drawing features. We're going to look at some drawings and talk about what looks good or what doesn't look good. I'm going to show you a calculation page. There's nothing to do on that page right now except start looking at it, studying it, and making sure that you understand it. Okay? It's stuff that you should be, I won't say familiar with, but know that it exists. And part of what you're going to have to do as a designer is figure things out. So I've given you an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of stuff. You can look at the formula, you can get in there, and you can really make sure that you know how to make it work. Okay, so it's going to be one of the things for you to learn how to use, so that when it's time to use it and I give a demonstration, you understand it. So there are some things due. You can see due on Sunday is that there's a professionalism report and the portfolio checkup. So let's take a look and see where those are. Well, what do you know? They're right here on the calendar. Now you'll notice that some of these calendar things are sort of blank. I'm watching and seeing how things go, and I'm going to adjust when things are due a little bit. But right here on the calendar, it says due date. Now, somebody told me that they couldn't figure out when things were due. Not in this class. There's a calendar right off the bat on the home page for your Canvas, and right there it says due date. I don't know how to make it any more simple. So please read your calendar. Click on these things to see a day ahead of time. Like I got this thing really filled out last night. But you can see here what is due, and there's a professionalism report. So let's take a look first at the instruction page. You've all seen this already. Why is that not authorized? That's not very good. Do I not have that thing unlinked? See, this is why I always have to go into here we are in 350. I must have linked the wrong one. So I'm going to go fix that right now. Let's try to undo that. I don't know why that's not doing its thing properly. And let's see if this one goes to the right. That one went to the right one. Okay, it was just an old one that was on there. All right, so let's come back over to here. I'll put myself into the right view again. And you can go to the page. Here it is. Right? And so this is professionalism, and this is what you have to do. So there it is right there. See this one right here? Submit one sample of your work to the discussion board. And this is each week, folks. And then practice a set of predetermined responses. Now, that's going to be really hard for you guys to do by tomorrow because only one person has submitted anything so far. You guys got to be watching and reading at this level, and in this online thing, it is up to you to read, dig, find things out. This is no different than specifications. If you're finding this difficult, take the specification English reading course that I've set up for you. Okay? So submit at least one. Let's go look and see what's been submitted so far. There's one. So that means that the rest of you have not done any of them. So I'm going to suggest that from the boss's point of view, or your supervisor's point of view, or your instructor's point of view, nobody has done anything for 2 weeks. Even though we've been talking about getting drawings done, do these drawings, do these drawings, do these drawings. You're supposed to know how to do these drawings. I gave you drawings that you've all done before. DT100, DT302, things like that. So you need to be doing these drawings. They need to be in here. Okay? Let's take a look at Laura's because it's actually, and look at how this works because this is exactly what I'm hoping to see. Here's a existing site plan. Well, look at that. That looks pretty close to what I was looking for. And then I made some comments about it. So you guys look that over really quickly and then see if my comments make sense to you. So I copied one of the replies, right? It says copy one of these replies. So I copied this one. I said, nice work, see these comments. So I asked about the wipeout command because let's take a look at that again. The numbers are on top of the line and it looks like a strikeout. And that's not going to hurt anybody or kill anybody, but usually they like to see a little break in the line on either side. So I suggested using the wipeout command. And Laura got a hold of me and said, the what? So I said, here's a video of it. So there's the wipeout command if you don't know how to do the wipeout command. And now here it is afterwards. And then Laura couldn't find the old title block, so I posted those for you. So now there's a title block on it. There's a scale on it. That's nice. And then there's some other stuff on it. And that's all really good. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. And so you can see there's a little break on either side. And so she used the wipeout command to do that. And so that's how you guys are supposed to be working together. And so nice work, no changes required. But there is one other little principle that we could apply, and that's that elevations at corners are written outside of the boundaries. What does that mean? It means that right here, this 24 should be on the other side of the dot, and this 25 should be on the other side of the dot. And I'll tell you, I usually find one thing at a time to talk about, and I'll talk about this one. I'll do one more thing right now because this is part of our what makes a good drawing. So this says it has a scale of 1 inch equals 30 feet, and that's cool. If I have the AutoCAD or a full-size drawing, or if I know that I've plotted this on an A-size drawing, then I could measure it. But what if I did this? And I cut and pasted that onto something. Okay, now I don't know the size of this anymore. I don't know what size my drawing is. I don't know anything about it because it's just a little picture that I took, and I don't even, I have no clue. I have no clue. So that makes this drawing useless to me if I have to measure something. So as an example, if I wanted to know the slope along this direction, I know how far it drops from here to here, but I don't know the distance. And so I'd go, oh, I can put a scale on it, and I can measure that distance, and I can know the slope of my land there. But now I can't put a scale on it because I don't know. It says 1 equals 30, but I don't know if this was blown up, taken down, stretched. I don't know anything about it. So in general, there will be a line somewhere on this drawing with a distance on it. It'll have a 0 and a 50 as an example, or a 0 and a 25 and a 50. Okay? And that way, anybody can rescale this to the proper scale, which is 1 inch on my piece of paper equals 30. And then I could put a thing on it called a scale. Some of us call it a ruler. Okay? And we could actually flip it to the 1 equals 30 line and read it directly. So that leads into what we're talking about today. And so this is nice. This would actually get full credit. This would be fine. It's a good drawing. It's an excellent drawing from a land planning point of view. If this was going into a proper full set that somebody was really going to use and pick over and things like that, we'd make sure that these numbers are to the outside, and I'd make sure that there was some scale on here so that I could measure this, and I'd be sure that there was a north arrow. But this is just your start off, so I think you're doing fine. So this is good work. And because Laura put it in here and I was able to do some of it, now you guys can do all this too. The goal is that you guys are talking with each other and doing this. You see this one? Oh, every week to ensure that you are making progress. Right now, I would say, if somebody asked me, if one of my other colleagues came up, how's your class doing? I says, well, nobody's submitted a drawing. I don't think they've drawn anything. That's what I'd have to say because I have no evidence at all that you've done anything yet, even though I've asked for evidence in here. Okay, so evidence, evidence, evidence. We're always looking for that. Does that make sense to you guys? Any questions on that? You can type them in or you can write them in. So just really quickly, everybody put on here, I'm putting you on the spot. Everybody just put on here, how many sheets have you done? And I'm going to tell you why that's important. How many sheets have you done? Just type it in on the chat line. It's okay if you've done 0. You're going to find that everybody's done 0. Okay. Oh, there's a couple. There's a 5, a 2, a 1.5, a bunch of zeros. So look, let's take a look at this professionalism report. It says here at least one sample. Let's look at the form. The form's going to have your name, the W number. This stuff is due on Sunday. So you'll just click on that Sunday. Did you both post and review at least one submittal? So look, this is due on Sunday. If you expect somebody to actually review yours, Saturday night or Sunday morning is probably a poor time to get these posted. Okay? And if you're waiting and waiting and waiting so that you can post a reply to somebody else, if I were one of your colleagues and I didn't have anything to post a reply to until Sunday night, I'd be kind of torqued because I wanted to do something else Sunday night. So you need to be thinking about your colleagues a little bit too. Okay, so there's a question. It's a yes or a no. How many assignments or plates or drawings did you do this week? Now look, there's 6 due next week, but there's really 12 all told for you to do a really good job on this class. So I would expect by Sunday you've done 6. And if you answer something other than 6, then, you know, you're probably not keeping up all the way. Now, we haven't had a module submittal due yet, so you would put in a 0. And then what portion of the course has passed? It's 2 weeks. This is the end of 2 weeks. Okay? And how many have you done? How many optional ones? We're not into those. So now I'm going to ask you, what do you think? Are you keeping up already? And hopefully the answer is yes. You should have, and you're going to be basing this one on the number of assignment plates. How many of those drawings have you done? And if you've drawn 6, 7, 8, something like that, then you're doing pretty good. Okay, you're on track. If you've done 1, 2, or 3, you're really behind. So see this one? I need help figuring this out. I just helped you figure it out. If you've done 6 or more by Sunday, and they're good, that isn't you've done them. They're done. They've been reviewed. You've made your corrections. They're ready to go. Okay? That's sort of what we're looking at here. Are they done? Are they good? Not did you start them and you're waiting for feedback. Are they done? And you know that they're ready to go. So if you've got 6 of them that are done and somebody's checked them and given you feedback, then you're probably yes. Otherwise, you're no. Okay? How long did you work on this class? Remember, we said that this class should take you, including these little 4 hours of lecture and lab, 13 to 15 hours a week. So if you've done less than that, you haven't spent too many hours on it. This is sort of like where you should be, and it does say many hours. If it's taken you more than that to do it, you're either just really into it, which is cool, and you're studying lots of stuff because you love it. I do. Or you need to get yourself going a little faster. Okay, so this is due. Remember, this is due every week. I look at these numbers and I color code them. And if I see a bunch of red, some of these not being like where they need to be, a bunch of these not where they need to be, not many of these where they need to be. I've got those all coded into my Excel spreadsheet. And if I see a bunch of red, you don't get credit for it. Now, the whole thing is only worth 4 points, so it's not terrible. But you want to be keeping up. This is professionalism. When you're a professional, you keep track of your own work. And this is a way to do it. I actually do this. I have my own checklist of what I have to do every week and what's expected of me every week. I have a bunch more stuff to do than these classes. I am a massage therapist, and although I'm not doing a bunch of hands-on, I am giving my clients liniments. I'm giving them exercises. I'm giving them herbs. I'm consulting with them. I'm watching them do things. And so I've got that to keep track of. I've got my business to keep track of. I've got this to keep track of. So I do this for myself, and then I go back and reflect. Okay, so this is not just a way for me to give you a grade. This is my attempt to train you in good professional habits for what you can do. Okay, so that's this part that's due. Your professionalism. Oh, look, there's another thing that's due. There's another thing. And this is a portfolio checkup. Okay, and it says it is not due yet, but you want to have a lot of progress on it already. And I do look these over. If you get it done before 11:59 on Sunday, I usually start looking at these on Sunday evening, just so that I know what's going on. Sometimes I wait until Monday to do them. But I do give some feedback on this. Now remember, it says a minimum of 6 sheets are required. If you don't get those 6 sheets done, you get a 0. Okay, it's just a 0. Okay, if those 6 sheets are done and they're kind of close, I'll probably let you do some stuff again. But remember, this one's just a checkup. Okay, you should be able to do far more than that if you are industry ready. So if you get that 6 done, that's okay. But you need to get all 12 done. So a lot of people call me and go, oh, can I get a letter of reference? And I go, yes, you can. Do you really want me to? And they go, yes. And I actually go back and I look at things like this. And I base my reference on the evidence that I saw that you are either industry ready or not. And I always write a very, very nice, good, polite reference, because everybody I work with is like at least collaborative and easy to work with and hardworking. But if I can't put evidence in, it weakens the letter of reference a lot. So you want me to be able to go, and in this class, this person did this and this and this, and it was at a high level, and you should really look at their portfolio because it's really cool and things like that. Okay? So this one is just a checkup, but you do put it in there. See, it's not due until the 13th. Okay? 6 pages of your work. But I really would like you to do it all. I put it all in there because that's what's really the best. Okay? Print and save the module. Yeah. Yep. 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 So there's 2 functions that happen. There's the discussion board where you guys act as colleagues. I'm usually not going to be doing this, but I wanted to make a model, and since there was only one in there, I did it on Laura's. This is really for you guys to do this work. Okay, it's every bit as important that you start looking at people's work and saying, yeah, I see something, I see something, I see something. Okay, that's part of your professional job usually, is to recognize what needs to be corrected. So that's the purpose of this, is to give you a chance to work with your peers. Okay, not that I'm not your peer. I'm not, oh, I'm better than you. All right, I'm one of your peers too, but we want to spread that around. So one goes in here, and then when we go into the other one, which I'll go find again now. in this one is where you actually create a PDF of that module's portfolio and put it in there. And that's where I'm going to review it for sure. Cool? All right. All right, well, that was a bunch of stuff. So let's go and get into but that was important. That, you got to figure out how things go. So let's start looking at what makes a good drawing. Okay, because we have a little bit of time to look at that. So let's look at these ones first. So there's a few things missing on this drawing, but let's take a look. And I think, let's see if I open it with Lumina, if that works. Sometimes I don't really like these. Forget it. I'm just going to download it and open it up. Okay, so here we go. Here's a drawing. And so there's some things that I can say are good about. Now look, see, I got mine stuck inside there, right? It's like, that's not really where it goes. Why was that? I was in a hurry. I had to get these things done and out, and there we go. Okay, but there's a few things. Let's talk about what's good and what's not good on this. First of all, the line weights on this are all correct. You see how the boundary, this is just an existing, it's a site, it's just supposed to give you some ideas about it. And so the line weights on this are all correct. This, if it was in AutoCAD, would be like a 0.028. These would be like a 0.014 or a 0.010. These are black. The boundary, the property lines are black. The topo lines, because they're not the real critical part of this drawing, are a gray of some sort. I think I noted that I used 253 as the color. Another thing to note is when you're making a site plan or a plot plan, wherever the boundary changes direction, you put a marker. And if you know the elevation, you put the elevation at that marker. And the elevation, it's best to put it outside the drawing. It's sort of like mechanical, where you try to keep your dimensions outside of the drawing. Okay, now there's another thing to know about, if I can make this a little bit bigger. So here you see elevations on the topo lines. Now you can set this. Sometimes you do elevations every 2 feet. Sometimes it's every 5 feet, every 10 feet. So you have to know how you've set your topo markers, your topo lines. These are set to put a line every foot. And I've chosen to put an elevation on each topo line. You don't need to do that. You just need to be clear. So I could have put one on 24 and 22. Or 21, 23, 25. But I think this is pretty clear to put one on each one. You'll also notice that on topo lines, they're oriented so that they go in the downward direction. Okay, so I'm reading, if I look at this 25, I know that this is the lower side and this is the upper side without even looking at the rest of these numbers. Below the number is the low side. Above the number is the high side, and that's just a convention. Okay, now this in Revit is a little bit hard, but we can get it. So normally this would say, because I typed all this in, if I did it in Revit, that would say 160 feet, 160.00 feet, and that's a real common to have 2 decimal places. Because 0.1 is like an inch. So this is like a eighth of an inch, like 160.00 feet due west. Now when I type that in Revit, it says it's north 90 west. So you have to do a little bit of work on this. If you're going west or due west or due south, you have to do a little bit of work on that. Now this one is also backwards, but that's just a Revit thing. We really like to be able to read boundary lines from the right or the bottom of the page. From the right or the bottom of the page. And here, to read it, unless I got my brain working backwards, I'd have to stand on the left side of the page and look at it this way. So, but that's just Revit, and it does that. These markers on the corner can just be dots. They can be elevation markers. They can be with an arrow with a dot. Doesn't matter. And main features that we have to pay attention to are usually just with a cross and a little label. Sometimes there's an elevation written there too. Now the things that are missing are what I said. This is 1 inch equals 20 feet. But if I were to take a snip of this or just look at it here on my screen like this, there's no way I could tell anything. Now, I could measure this. I do have some measurements that I could take. So all is not lost because this says 160 feet. So I could measure from here to here and find out my scale factor. And I do have clues. This says this is north 3 degrees west. So I could know by reading that north must be up and west is to the left, because that's the only thing that works. So all is not lost, but this would be better if there was a north arrow and if there was a little scale down here with a 0 and a 50 or a 0 and a 100 or a 0 and a 25 that I could physically measure than to rescale this drawing if I need to put a scale on this drawing. Okay, so those are some of the things that I've seen, and I'm not going to worry about the title block right now. I'm really most interested in this. Does anybody else see some things? Okay, so Wasan, I've got it. I actually posted how to do this one in Revit, but I started right here. Okay, this was my start point. Because then I go due east, north 15, 3 degrees 15 west, due west, due south, and down to here. Now, what if I had started here and gone the other way? Well, I would know that then I would type in 63.5 due west. And to change this, to draw in the other direction, I just swap north, south, east, west. So this would be north 68.52.10 west. I just swap the north, south, and east, west. So if I decide to go the other way, I can do that. That's a good question. Because in Revit, you have to sort of go in order and go around. So I started right there. So those are some things that I've seen. How about you guys? Is there something else that might be on here? Yeah, there needs a north arrow. It needs a scale. It would really be nice if I had something that at least clued me into where this was. Usually there'd be an address on here or something like that. Often there would be an area noted on this drawing somewhere. So those are all things that if you want to do an even better job, that would be an even better job. The tags, yes. So there's a good question. If I did this with detail lines, then I'd have to make some sort of a little symbol and put it on here, or use an annotation marker or something like that. If I went through and I actually made this a topography, then I could do that. Okay, so that's an important feature to do. Yeah, it's tagged by category. And then that's for these property lines. If you're in Revit, these are all tagged by category. But we'll go over that during the lab. I want to look at the features of this and find out what looks good so that when you guys look at a drawing, you go, yep, that's a good drawing. Got it. That's a good drawing. So let's take a look at this one. Let's look at the line weights again. Again, the property lines are popping out. And do you see how I did the elevation tags on this one? I just used an annotation tag, and I just put a dot there, and I put the elevation. And notice on this one, I got everything outside. And this one, all of this information here about these topographies, they'd get in the way here. I don't need it. I don't care about it. I don't want to know about it. This is an information drawing. It's what I'm going to do. It's new construction. So I'm just putting notes on this thing. But my setback, notice my setback is a lighter line. And again, I've made it a different color. I've lightened it. I've grayscaled it. So my property line is dark and bold, and it's like a phantom, and my setback is dashed. Now, if you look at it, I think I'm using, let's talk about text size. You've got essentially, are these other items indeed a standard for the, yes. So when I say that it needs a north arrow and a scale, this should have a north arrow and a scale too. They don't always have to look exactly the same, but it's good to have. Okay? And so you can use 3/32 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, or 1/4 of an inch, depending on how your drawing is going to look. But if you look at this and you read this, you can pretty well read things and look at them. They're not scrunched up. They're not overpowering the drawing. You can see things. So these ones are 3/32 of an inch. And I think that's a good size on here. Okay. Again, I've tried to make sure that I'm not crossing leader lines. My leader lines are all separated. I am allowed to put annotations on the inside in a drawing like this. I had to move this because of where I put this section view. That's why I put this section view in here. I wanted to put it in to show that it has to miss things. Okay, so if this section view went through a number or a piece of text, I'd be going, blech, no good. And I didn't set these exactly the same amount away because that one was sticking up a little bit. I probably should have moved this over here a little bit and got it closer. Okay, but notice how things are pretty close. Okay, in general, I use a leader going to the top line when I have a multi-line. Also notice that my dimensions use architectural ticks. That's important. And since this is really sort of an architectural drawing, although these are in decimal feet, I've got the stuff for my architect in feet and inches. Okay, so that's sort of what goes on here. This says that I would look for this section on view number 2 of sheet C103. View number 2 of sheet C103. So that's a real typical sort of new construction drawing. Things don't have to be in exactly the same place. They don't have to look exactly like that, but you want a nice clean drawing. I'll go over that in lab, but there should be, if you go TP for tool palettes, and I think it's either under civil or architectural annotations, you can put one in, or you just draw one. It's real simple. I usually just draw one. I usually just draw a line and put 2 arrows on it. But we'll take a look for that. Now this one, you can see I've got a lot of the same stuff. I haven't located everything. But this one is really about sort of giving somebody an idea of what my right-of-way is going to look like. So this is all of my paving and where I'm going to walk and things like that. So I put some basic dimensions in. I've got some basic elevations. I'm noting some ADA access, things like that. And you'll notice I'm doing these in this is terrible right here, by the way. What's wrong with that? Yep. So I really need to move my dimension line away from that. I need to move it out. I tell you can always find something. So some of these, I've got these labeled. Now you don't have to, if you're just drawing this, just draw some sort of examples just to kind of show. You don't have to make it exactly like this. Just get the idea. I'm really looking, do you know the idea behind this? Now, there's one thing on this that you might want to do. I think that I probably want my actual parking outline to be just a little bit darker. Now that I'm looking at it on the PDF, when I looked at it on the screen, it looked okay. But now that I'm looking at it on a PDF, it's not popping out at me. I'd want that to pop out, to really jump. Now, not be big and bold and overdo everything, but I really want my right of way, which is all the asphalt and concrete and stuff like that, I want it to pop at me just a little bit more. Okay? And I might even take this section view off. I might hide that. I don't have to show that everywhere. Okay? It depends on whether I want to put that in there or not. Otherwise, this one's not doing too bad. I've got my corner markers. Notice I didn't put the property details on here. The property text, the annotations. It would be good if they were on there. There's also always something that you could do better. but I really want to be able to show what looks good. Now, these are nice. They're nicely lined up. I'm above. These are nicely lined up, but they should be a little bit farther away. My elevations are all nicely marked. Okay, so this is all about how do I get this to look good. Any questions on that one? We're just going over what looks good. So this is this is a pretty good looking drawing. Now look, for a land planning first issue to the Planning Commission, this would be fine. But if you're working for the civil engineer or the architect or the surveyor, you want to just clean it up just a little bit more. And that's the right-of-way plan, a very typical one. That's where I'm going to put my asphalt and my concrete and things like that. So this one's my drainage plan. So I just want slope arrows. And I don't care exactly where you put them, but just put some in there and get something sort of like this. So this is my drainage plan. This area drains to the street. And you can see this one's a little bit better. I don't know why I got these ones right and these ones not, but I did a little bit better on these ones. I got drainage going to the drain in the parking, and this part drains to the street. That's really enough for somebody. It says drain to the swale, so I had to mark the swale. And then that's why I wanted this here. I wanted to be able to show this is the parking, and then it's going to drop down into the swale. It's going to overflow right into there. Now, there's got to be something on this parking lot. There's going to be a parking lot detail that would say, because you don't want people to park and just drop into the swale, right? So you know that there's going to be some parking details. But I can see from this where water is going to go. And so the planners are going to go, who lives over here? And who lives over here? And how is this grading going to affect that? This is a pretty big chunk of land that's going to drain over to this area right over here. So it could be that somebody would want to do some drainage mitigation. They might make you put an infiltration trench along here that would drain over to the swale so that everything goes this way, but it comes back over to here eventually. Or it could be that that's where it's supposed to go. Could be that this development is meant to drain in that direction. Yeah, it says there's a creek there in a minute, so you know that that's not where it's supposed to go, right? Usually we don't drain from a developed place into a creek. If it's a protected creek, if that's a stormwater drain creek, then that is where it's supposed to go, right? But I think it says it's a protected creek. What did we say? It didn't say. It just said that there's a, oh yeah, protect the stream. So at least we're not supposed to get something in it while we're doing our construction. So it's not clear. We'd have to go. But again, so look at the look of this. Again, the property line jumps out. The thing that I'm trying to talk about jumps out. I can see my drainage slope lines. They jump out. My topo lines, they're making it obvious what's going on. I could have not shown some of them, like that little one here, this one here, this one here. I could have not shown those, but I don't think that they're drawing away. Probably lighten them up just a little bit more, or heavy up my heavy up these. Now when I come over here again, my PDF plotter, I think I had the wrong pen setting, because you can see right here I got it right, but here I didn't. So I only adjusted one of my hatches. This one over here is too dark, and even this one is a little too dark. I really want to see the line of my surface. Okay? Any questions on that one? This one's real typical of a stormwater pollution prevention plan. You really sort of strip everything out. You're just trying to get some ideas across. And I don't know why I didn't point those right at the trees. They should have, but that's okay. So you guys really, you have to be able to look these things up and know them. And again, I know it's one extra class. Do you guys get the idea that I'm really stressing that you need to be able to read these things? Any idea why I'm making a big deal about that? Did I just make up the need to do this? Anybody know how we operate? Okay, so every year we meet with what's called our advisory committee for design technology. And it's made up of our graduates from a long time ago, our recent graduates, industry managers, industry designers, people in the industry that hire our people. And they tell us, they get with the faculty, and they go, well, your students are really good, but I wish. And you guys are really doing a great job, but I wish. And usually they wish for something that's very specific to their industry. And so we're not going to do that. Okay? But across the board, we hear, man, we got to know specs better. We got to find this stuff better at reading specifications, reading codes, and finding codes. So as an example, when I got my first my job at WEMCO, I was the test site supervisor, mechanical engineer. I've been working in the industry for about 4 years. I get this job. You want to know what the guy did? Sat me down for 2 weeks, and I read standards. I read Hydraulic Institute standards. I read test standards. I read manufacturing standards. And I read our bargaining unit contract because I was management, and my manager told me under no circumstances could I violate that contract. So I spent 2 weeks reading standards, and then I didn't memorize them. I had to go back to them all the time. It's real, folks. You got to be able to go into standards. So if somebody says put it together a stormwater pollution plan or do this, do that, you got to be able to find standards. So this is a very typical one. So when I put this here, it's a nice clean drawing. It's a good looking drawing. It really calls out, this is very obviously an area we need to. Here's an area we need to pay attention to. This tells me what standard I'm with. So this is a clean drawing. This one doesn't have dimensions, so I really don't even need the scale and stuff, but I have it. When I show you something like this, what I'm hoping that you'll also do, because you have 13 to 15 hours of study to do, you'll go get that and you'll go, what is that? Now, maybe you remember that one from DT300. Maybe you remember TC1 and what's involved with it, okay? But I'm going to hope that you go, oh, yeah, preserve, and you're going to go read that and try to find out what that is and how they do it, and what that is and how they do it. Okay, so this one's a nice clean drawing. There's not much more. But I'd like you to look at these and know what you're talking about when you do these. Okay, and then the last one is a utility plan. And this is just typical of what you see. So they're usually a series of symbols. And so there might be on here a set of symbols also. Okay, but E, G, CWS, SD, D, that's just sort of telling you D connect, SD connect, CWS connect. I'm just saying that those are the connections to the electrical, gas, cold water supply, sanitary drain. They're all along this edge right here. Notice there's no dimensions. They're all approximately located. And it's showing you where the utilities should be run to get this job done. This little thing here, this little loop, means that it crosses over it. It doesn't intersect. It doesn't connect. It crosses past it. Now, some of the things that are not on here are elevations of these lines. Sometimes these are given zones. Okay, all of your electrical is from 1 foot to 2 foot under surface, or under your 0 grade. Gas is usually pretty deep. It's usually running 6 to 10 feet. Cold water, 4 to 6 feet. Sanitary drain, a little bit deeper still. Okay, data is often very near the surface. So we didn't really talk about those. I've got some elevations at the connections, but I'm not telling you about the zones that these would run in on the site. That's often in a little table over to the right. Okay, so any questions? Let's see. So in this case, we're not. So Wasan goes, do we put dimensions on these? No, they're really just telling you about where they go. If there's a reason for a dimension, it's because there's a major obstacle in the way that you have to get rid of. But this is a very simple one that's just showing the Planning Commission again what connections you're going to put in or are already there and how you're going to run them to this new foundation. Okay. So the last thing, we've got 2 minutes. We did this lecture here. What makes a good drawing? We went over what's due. I want to look at this. Typical calculations that you guys are going to need to do. You'll open this and it'll be view only. You have to make your own. So these are typical land planning calculations. And we're always looking at grade, rise, run, slope. And so when we talk about, ground being at an angle, people talk about it in different terms. There's percent grade, there's slope ratio, there's slope angle, and they're all basically the same thing. They're the rise, how much did I go up and down, and the run, how far flat-wise did it take me to do it. Okay? So it's really horizontal and vertical. And mostly it's rise divided by run. Rise divided by run. Rise divided by run times 100. Rise divided by run. This one, slope angle, is the angle whose tangent is a tan, rise over run. And so the way I've set this up is you just put the rise here. Let's say on a property, and I'm going to do this for you in the lab, I go from plus 15 feet here to 5 feet here. What is my rise from plus 15 to 5? It's actually, I'm not rising, I'm going down, and I went down 10 feet. From 15 to 5 is a 10-foot drop. So I would say minus 10 feet. Maybe it was 10 feet, 3 inches. And I did that over a distance of 428.1 feet. 428.1. It gives me all my stuff. There's my grade, a minus 2.2% grade. My slope ratio in parentheses means it's minus 0.02. And it's going down at an angle of 1.3. And that's in degrees. Okay, so this is a calculator for you. A lot of times you need to know that. What if I was trying to do the slope of a pipe and I went 1/8 per foot? Okay, so now I know. 1/8 of an inch per foot, 0.01, 0.57 degrees, 1%. All right, so that's how we get to do these. That's there for you. I also have an area and perimeter calculator. If I type in 62,250 square feet, you can see I have 1.429 acres. Or if I type in 1 acre, I have 43,560 square feet. So this is here for you, so you don't have to go look it up on the web. Okay, so you have to make your own copy of it so that it works. And I'll be adding stuff in for you as we go. All right, so I'm going to turn off the